and watch him put up 20 points for you this week. And finally, at quarterback, who we're sitting? Michael Vick. Right now, it's questionable whether or not he's going to start. Either he doesn't start and you should definitely bench him, or he's going to start and you should bench him anyway. Michael Vick has been turning it over and has not been accurate. Those are the two critical points of Chip Kelly's offense: ball control and accuracy. You cannot afford to throw 55% and turn the ball over. So even if he starts, if they fall behind, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chip Kelly pull him in favor of Nick Foles, because Nick Foles looked pretty good the other week in mop-up duty. So you sit Michael Vick. I don't think he's doing much against a surprisingly decent Bucs defense. The Bucs defense is one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. You wouldn't know it because the rest of the team sucks, but they've got a pretty good one going down there. So sit Michael Vick. And who are we starting? We're starting the counterpart, Mike Glennon. I talked earlier how I don't feel good about him picking up the victory this week against the Eagles. That doesn't mean I don't think he'll put up points. That Eagles defense is not that good either, and they win by outscoring opponents, not by stopping them. So it's going to be a shootout. Tampa Bay still got guys like Mike Williams and Vincent Jackson down there to throw to. I like Mike Glennon to have a good day for the Buccaneers and put up some decent fantasy points for you. So give him the nod if you're short at quarterback. And that is the Fantasy 5 Pick'ems. Sit 'em, start 'em, do what you got to do. Good luck. Continuing on with football, as a lot of you know, I'm a big fan of Peter King and his Monday morning quarterback column. He did an interesting thing this week. This week he had an essay contest, keep it 250 words or less, about the Hall of Fame voting. As a lot of people know, and as I'm sure you know, he is one of the 42 voters for the Hall of Fame. And the Football Hall of Fame is one of the more criticized processes in sports. I personally have no problem with it. Sure, I have my favorites that I want in, and there's a couple guys that I don't think should be in, but by and large, I think they do a really good job for a really hard job. Anyway, they're in the process of whittling down the field of contestants from 125 or so to 25. And in doing so, Peter King gave his readers a contest where you get 250 words to write in who you think should be inducted this year. And he published 10 of them on his Monday morning quarterback. I wrote, but I think he disqualified me because I went over a little bit over the 250 word limit. I mean, come on. If you're going to make a compelling argument, you got to have more than 250 words, right? Are you with me? Whether you are or not, that's my take on it. Anyway, I made the argument for Terrell Davis. I was a big fan of his growing up, and he played 7 seasons, but he only really played 4. His last 3 seasons were completely marred by injury, and he ended up retiring due to injuries to his knees. But I'm going to give you my quick argument for Terrell Davis. Yes, sustained excellence in most cases should be the standard by which, or at least one of the main standards by which you're judged. I don't think there's too many players who can only play a handful of seasons but get inducted. However, Terrell Davis had arguably the most dominant 4-year stretch in the history of running backs. In that stretch, he won 2 Offensive Player Awards, 1 MVP, a Super Bowl MVP, 2 Super Bowl titles, and is one of only 6 people to rush for over 2,000 yards. Plus, the other thing for Terrell Davis is he is one of the few people who actually got better in the playoffs. In his first Super Bowl, he missed the entire second quarter with a migraine, but still got 30 carries for 157 yards and 3 touchdowns. In 8 playoff games, he rushed for 100 yards 7 times. His first game, he rushed for 91 yards, and then for the other 7 100-plus yard games in a row. That's tied with Emmitt Smith for a record, except Emmitt Smith did his in 17 career playoff games, not 8. If you were to project Terrell Davis's playoff statistics over the course of an entire season, here's what it would look like. 408 carries for 2,280 yards, 24 rushing touchdowns, and a ridiculous 5.59 yards per carry. That is his average currently. Well, that is his average in playoffs. Yards per carry, 5.59, which is easily still a record. He also has records for rushing yards and rushing touchdowns in a single postseason. In the year they won their first Super Bowl, he rushed for 581 yards and 8 touchdowns. This is a guy who played big in the biggest games. And John Elway, who goes down as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever and has the greatest finishing story, retiring after back-to-back Super Bowl victories, he would not have a Super Bowl ring if it were not for Terrell Davis. Terrell Davis had impact. For comparison, I did a little graph that I submitted in my essay comparing Terrell Davis's first 4 years to the most dominant 4-year stretches of Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders, Gale Sayers, Walter Payton, and LaDainian Tomlinson. And his stats are on par with all those guys. All of which, except for LaDainian Tomlinson, are in the Hall of Fame. And LaDainian Tomlinson is going to the Hall of Fame. And Terrell Davis's stats are equal, if not better, than all of them. And finally, there's all those people who say, well, he just didn't play long enough. He just didn't last long enough. You can't put him in. Impact matters. You want to know how impact matters? Joe Namath. Joe Namath is a career 50% passer. He only made the playoffs 3 times. He only had a winning record in his season twice. He only threw more touchdowns than interceptions 3 times in a season. 3. And that's in 13 years. He has a career win-loss record that favors the loss side. He has far more interceptions than touchdowns. He didn't lead teams to greatness. He has literally turned a backed-up guarantee of Super Bowl III and transformed that into a Hall of Fame induction. He should not be in the Hall of Fame, but he is, because he was a colorful character who backed up a bold guarantee in Super Bowl III. He had impact, even though he did not sustain excellence over his career. Terrell Davis had impact. He was the best running back alongside Barry Sanders during the late 90s. He has 2 Super Bowl rings. He has done things that no other running back in history has done, and he only played for 4 years. And for that reason, I believe to my very core that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Switching it up a little bit, for those of you who are football junkies, you may not have noticed, we've still got the baseball playoffs, and they have been phenomenal. This first round, 2 games went to 4 games, 2 games went the full 5. And we had Justin Verlander pitching his butt off, and we're going to talk about that later. But no sweeps. All 4 matchups have been really good. And last night, in Game 1 of the second round, the Cardinals won 3-2 in 13 innings over the Dodgers. This has been baseball at its finest. It is must-see TV. Even if you're not a baseball fan, check it out, because it is definitely worth a look-see. And with that being said, we've got other sports coming up too. Hockey just started, and we've got the basketball season impending. They're currently playing preseason, but in a couple weeks they're going to start the real stuff. So I just wanted to give you a couple bold predictions for the season. First, the Bulls. It's NBA Finals or bust. This team has high expectations. They're getting Rose back healthy. Joakim Noah is going to get less minutes so that he should be able to play through his plantar fasciitis without it flaring up too bad this year. Luol Deng should get a less heavy workload because they drafted guys who can spell him. Plus, they've got Jimmy Butler, who's been playing really well the past couple of years. So his minutes should go down. Quite frankly, the Bulls are built to win in the regular season, and with their new strategies in place, they're built to go far in the postseason. And with former MVP Derrick Rose back for Chicago, the expectation is that you are getting to the NBA Finals. That means beating the Pacers. That means beating the Heat. And excuses are not going to be tolerated this year. Speaking of the Pacers, Danny Granger's back. People are talking about, are he and Paul George going to be able to share the ball? Are they going to be able to work cohesively? How it will affect team chemistry? They're going to be fine. Granger is a very good scorer who was used to getting the primary defender. Now that Paul George has emerged as a very good ball handler and scorer, it's going to take some of the pressure off Granger. I expect Granger to have an all-star caliber season. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him get the all-star nod this year. So Pacers are going to be dangerous. Their scoring is going to go up. And I think that they are the primary candidate to de-seat the Bulls' ambition of going to the NBA Finals. Speaking of the NBA Eastern Conference, we've got the Brooklyn Nets who have made a big splash, and guys like Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Here's my prediction for them. Both of them are getting injured this season. They are old, and they are guys who play a very physical brand of style. And we talked a couple weeks ago about how Garnett refused to take a demotion in minutes. He doesn't want to be rested. He doesn't want to have his minutes watched. He wants to go. And he's going to get hurt because you know why? He's a very old 36. He has logged over 50,000 career minutes on that court. And Paul Pierce, he's a tough guy. He's usually used to playing through nicks and soreness and minor injuries. But age waits for no one. And you know what? It's catching up with both of them. I still think the Nets make the playoffs because Darren Williams is very good. I think they'll pick up a lot of good victories throughout the season. But quite frankly, I think that team's looking at another first-round loss. Another bold prediction, Lakers missed the playoffs. They didn't look that good last year, and they barely made it. This year, Kobe's rehabbing like the devil to try and overcome his Achilles tear. And he might be back for the season. If he does, I think he's coming back too early. He's either going to be ineffective off the bat, or he's going to get re-injured. And I think by the time he gets back to form, if he gets back to form, it's going to be too late to help that team. And I don't have any faith in Pau Gasol to carry the workload. That team has no point guard. They've lost their best player and best defender. They're going nowhere fast in a tough Western Conference. Miami Heat will not get the three-peat. That is my bold prediction for them. I think one of the big three, either Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh, gets traded this season. They have to start looking to the future, and they're definitely going to want to rebuild around LeBron James. Let's face it, he's in his prime, he doesn't have injury problems, and he's the best player in the world. Whether you like him or not, he is. And Dwayne Wade, for a guy his size, has taken a lot of abuse on that body, and he is no longer the focal point of a franchise because he just cannot be trusted to stay healthy. And Chris Bosh has exposed himself for the player he is. He's a very good player. He's a very complimentary player. He is not a franchise player. And with the salary those two are making and how they hamper rebuilding processes in Miami, I think it's just a matter of time before one of them gets traded. So I think the Heat will trade one. I think they will suffer because of it, and they'll be knocked out in the playoffs, probably by either the Bulls or the Pacers. So Heat will not repeat or three-peat. And then my other bold one, the Houston Rockets will make the NBA Finals. I like the move of Dwight Howard. He never really fit in LA, and he never really meshed with Kobe, because Kobe is a guy who needs the ball. He's not a guy who can catch and shoot. He's a guy who needs to hold it, he needs to shoot it, he needs to create. That is not the case in Houston. Houston has Jeremy Lin and James Harden, both guys who are equally adept and comfortable handling and distributing the ball as they are just taking it to the rim themselves. And I think with their outside perimeter shooting and their ability to slash the basket, they're going to open up a lot of easy dunks and easy baskets for Dwight Howard. And I think Dwight Howard next to Omer Asik is going to create a very good defensive front court that a lot of teams are going to have difficulty driving against. So I like the Rockets to get over the hump and make the NBA Finals this year, probably over the Spurs. So that has been my basketball predictions. And now for our final segment, for the love of the game. As you know, For the Love of the Game is a little segment I came up with because I like to leave you all on a happy note. And I've got a couple good ones for you, plus my big announcement that I talked about earlier. First one, the United States Olympic Committee has revised its non-discrimination policy, and it specifically now includes sexual orientation, that athletes and Olympians cannot be discriminated against or judged based on sexual orientation. Now, this was the unwritten policy, but by writing it out now, they have officially codified it. They have made it an official part of their program. And this is obviously in direct response to the controversy of Sochi, Russia holding the Winter Olympics and their stance on gay rights. The president and CEO of the U.S. Olympic Committee came out and said that they're not in the business of second-guessing another nation's form of government and their political beliefs and their societal beliefs. But in the United States, this is something that we are fighting to overcome, and that they are revising their rules to reflect the modern culture.